Hi, everybody. It's Mary again. This is going to be our last time together. Gosh, I wish I could see you. I wish that, we could have a conversation and talk and I could hear all of your ideas. I'm sorry that we didn't get a chance to do that, but maybe this is the next best thing. So I'm glad to have the opportunity anyway to share some of my ideas with you, especially about reading and empathy and writing. So this is our last time. I want to make the most of it. I'm kind of in a new place here, as you can see. I've got a fire going. And actually, it's kind of a fake fire, but it looks nice. It's a little chilly outside, so I thought it would be kind of fun to change our view out. And also, we're going to, of course, review our what we know about empathy now. We've been learning about that the last 3 times, and I know you're getting to be experts about it. So we're just going to review it. And then I'm going to read a really cool book to you. Not the one that I said I was going to read the last time that we met. I changed my mind. And I changed my mind because this is our last time and I wanted to make it really, really special. And I have just discovered this book by an amazing author that you might want to check out. Her name is Jacqueline Woodson. And she has written an incredible book, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But that's the book I'm going to share with you today because, well, it has a lot of good empathy in it, of course, but also it's about the power of telling our stories to help other people understand who we are and for us to understand who we are, that actually telling our stories helps us understand ourselves. And it shows us something really special. It shows us, our stories show us how much alike we really are, and also how wonderfully different we are. So I love that it celebrates, this book that I'm going to share with you celebrates the power of telling our stories. And isn't that what we've been doing for the last few days? So let's review empathy first, because when I read this book, we're going to read with empathy. We're going to be putting ourselves in the viewpoint or in the shoes of the characters and imagining what they're seeing, thinking, and feeling, because that's what we do when we read with empathy. We're also going to be looking for empathy. We're going to be looking for characters who show empathy to other characters. And something really, really special. There may be a character in here, in fact, I think there is, that shows empathy for himself. There's also another character that shows empathy for herself. That's something we can do. We can have empathy for us. And I think that's kind of a cool thing. It helps us feel better. So anyway, the book is called The Day You Begin. And I love this title because it's one of those titles that when you read it, you wonder, what does it mean? Like, what happens on the day you begin? Don't you wonder about that? Well, let's see if we can find out. The day you begin. And remember, we're reading for empathy. And when we see it, or when we're feeling empathy for a character, and there are many characters in this story, let's tap our hearts. Just really quietly tap our hearts when we feel that empathy. It's a beautiful book with beautiful illustrations. There will be times when you walk into a room and no one there is quite like you. Maybe it will be your skin, your clothes, or the curl of your hair. There will be times when no one understands the way words curl from your mouth, the beautiful language of the country you left behind. My name is Rigoberto. We just moved here from Venezuela. And because they don't understand, the classroom will fill with laughter until the teacher quiets everyone. Rigoberto from Venezuela, your teacher says, so soft and beautifully that your name and homeland sound like flowers blooming, the first bright notes of a song. I'm feeling empathy now for Rigoberto. And I feel like empathy was just shown to him by the teacher, actually, in the way that she acted with kindness and appreciation of the sound, the beautiful sound of his name and the beautiful sound of the name of his homeland. That was a way that she showed empathy. There will be times when the words don't come. Your own voice, once huge, now smaller, when the teacher asks, "What did you do last summer?" Tell the class your story. We went to France, Shayla says. These shells came from a beach in Maine. A boy named Jonathan holds out a jar filled with tiny shells so fragile they look like they'll turn to dust in your own untraveled hands. My whole family went to India, Spain, South Carolina, each souvenir a small triumph of a journey. Their travels going on and on. Do you see how the character, the girl, is here kind of on the outside, listening and watching and hearing about all the travels? I wonder what she's thinking. Can we use our empathy to imagine what she's thinking here and what she might be feeling? She talks about her own untraveled hands. And as you stand in front of the room, you can only remember how the heat waved as it lifted off the curb, and your days spent at home caring for your little sister, who made you laugh out loud and hugged you hard at nap time. You can only remember the books you kept on reading long after she had fallen asleep. And in that room, where no one else is quite like you, you'll look down at your own empty hands and wonder, what good is this when other students were flying and sailing and going somewhere? Goodness, I'm really feeling my empathy for her now. Yes. There will be times when the lunch your mother packed for you is too strange or too unfamiliar for others to love as you do. Now, here's the different character that we're seeing here. Somebody in the lunchroom, and she's remarking on how different her lunch seems than all the other people who are in the lunchroom. And can you see, just even by the way that the artist has created this picture, how they're all these kids, and then there's this one that's talking to us, or actually that we're hearing about. And I don't know, it seems like she may be kind of lonely. When even your own friend Nadia will wrinkle her nose and say, "What's in there anyway?" And you'll wonder how she doesn't see the rice beneath the meat and kimchi. You'll wonder why she doesn't remember that rice is the most popular food in the world. There will be times when the climbing bars are too high, the run is too fast and far, the game isn't one you can ever really play. I don't want him on our team. You can watch. Maybe you can have a turn later, these other kids are saying. And now we're hearing about this boy's experience and what he might be thinking and feeling. Again, there are these kids out here and this one right here feeling, seems like kind of alone. I'm using my empathy now to imagine that he might be feeling lonely or left out. Have you ever felt that way? Boy, I know I have. There will be times when the world feels like a place that you're standing all the way outside of. And all that stands beside you is your own brave self, steady as steel and ready, even though you don't yet know what you're ready for. I love this picture. And I love the words, and all that stands beside you is your own brave self. As I think of as I feel into the empathy for this boy, I'm thinking maybe he's not so alone. He has his own brave self with him. I like that idea. There will be times when you walk into a room and no one there is quite like you until the day you begin. Now maybe we'll figure out what that means. The day you begin to share your stories. My name is Angelina, and I spent my whole summer with my little sister. You tell the class, your voice stronger than it was a minute ago, reading books and telling stories. And even though we were right on our block, it was like we got to go everywhere. Now she's feeling strong. I wonder if she's feeling like she has her own brave self with her as she's speaking and telling her story. I wonder what happens next. Your name is like my sister's, Rigoberto says. Her name is Angelina too. And all at once, in the room where no one else is quite like you, the world opens up itself a little wider to make some space for you. This is what happens when we tell our stories. I just love that. This is the day you begin to find the places inside your laughter and your lunches. your books, your travel, and your stories, where every new friend has something a little like you and something else so fabulously not quite like you at all. And that's the end. And as we look at this picture, this last picture together, it seems that the main characters in the story that once felt kind of left out and not like they belonged and that they didn't fit in, now seem like they do feel like they belong. And part of it was because they told their stories. They stood by their own brave self. Okay, so like today's story, I am pretty sure that all of us have had that same experience of feeling like we aren't quite like the others in the room and that we don't quite belong for some reason. And that we've also had the experience where we've found that we can fit in. And I'm hoping over the last few days, we've also had the experience of what it's like to tell our stories and to be heard and to find out that we're both like others and also wonderfully different than they are. So today I thought for our writing, it would be a great idea to tell a story about that kind of experience. And so I'm going to share my screen right now with you and tell you kind of my ideas. I'm going to kind of make this a little bigger here so that you can see me and make sure that we've got this. There we go. That's nice and big so that you can see it. And so here's the invitation to write. Think about a time when you felt like you were on the outside of an activity or a group, like you didn't belong. Ask yourself, where was it? Think about where it was. When did it happen? Who else was there? What happened? And what did it feel like? You might even think about some of those feeling words that we talked about a couple of times ago. See if any of those feeling words come up for you about how you felt during this time. And then after doing some thinking about it, and that only takes about a minute, and you've got your experience that you want to express and tell a story about, then draw a picture of that time and experience. And then after you've drawn that picture, write about it. Now, the reason that I invite you to draw a picture first is because sometimes as we're drawing, we're thinking about more things that happened. We're thinking about maybe what was in the room, who was in the room. And it helps us, drawing a picture first helps us kind of organize our thoughts, get some of our ideas going. So draw a picture of that time first, then write about it. Or you can make a different choice. You can think about a time when you felt like you were on the inside of a group or activity, like you felt like you belonged. And then follow the same steps as above. Ask yourself those questions. Think about it a little bit, and then draw a picture of that experience, and then write about it. Or you can do both. Maybe like the girl Angelina in today's story, you felt like you were on the outside of an activity or a group, and something happened that helped you feel on the inside, like you belonged. Maybe it was something that somebody said, or maybe like that boy, it was standing by your own brave self and finding the way to use your voice. Maybe you told your story. All right. So let me give you an example. We've talked about how examples sometimes help us Let's see if I'm able to. No, I can't get this. I think you can still see the picture. So I drew this picture of a time when I felt inside a group. One day, and then I wrote about it. One day I signed up for a writing class, and from the moment I walked into the room, I felt at home. This was a place where I could tell stories and write about my feelings. I loved hearing other people's stories too. I still do. So when I'm in a room, I was remembering this time when I walked into a room, a workshop, a writing workshop. We sat at a round table, and we just shared our writing. And I remembered how much I loved all the words, and I particularly remember how I loved hearing other people's stories as well. And it helped me feel connected with them. Like there were some things that they wrote about that were similar to experiences I've had. There were other things that, weren't as similar, but were really interesting. And I felt at home with them. So I felt like I belonged. I was on the inside there. So here's another example of a time when I felt on the outside, and this was in college. So I drew this picture, and as you see, there I am, kind of at the back of the room, having no clue about what's going on that whiteboard. So I drew the picture, and then I wrote about it. When I was in college, I took a math class. I sat at the back of the room feeling anxious. The formula on the board was just a bunch of squiggles. Everyone seemed to know the answers except me. I wanted to run out the door. I'm wondering if you've ever had that feeling. I wonder if you can feel empathy for me as I tell that story and as you look at that picture. Now I decided to tell more of that story and what happened next. So I went from feeling outside to inside. And I drew this picture and I told this story. I wrote about this story. After class, a girl came up to me and said, "You looked a little lost in there. I remember when I felt that way too. Do you need some help?" We worked on our homework, and the next day we sat together in class. I still felt a little anxious, but I didn't feel like running out the door anymore. So you see, we can have that mix of feelings. I could still feel anxious. I'm still not sure if I'm going to get this math thing, but I felt more inside. I felt more like I belonged because this girl had reached out. Actually, I think she felt empathy for me. She reached out to help me, and I made a new friend. So that's why I felt on the inside. And sometimes empathy can make all the difference. When we see somebody who's kind of lost, like I'm sure I looked, and we reach out to them, and because we're feeling that empathy, we're reaching out in kindness, and what's wonderful, of course, and we've talked about this before, is that we make a new friend when we do that. So I hope we all remember this. But these are the kinds of things that you can write about. So again, let's look at this invitation to write. And your teacher can review this with you again about your choices, either writing about a time when you felt on the outside, writing about a time when you felt on the inside, or a time maybe when you felt both, where you started out feeling on the outside and you felt inside. And so let's do that. I hope you have a wonderful time doing it. Remember always when you're writing to play and put in as much detail into the writing as you can to help people picture what was going on, to help people step into your shoes and empathize, to feel what you felt. And and then hopefully you'll have time to share your stories too. So I'll be back in just a minute to say goodbye, which feels a little sad, but I am glad that I've been here with you too. So I'll see you in a minute. Hi, everybody. I hope you enjoyed your writing and your sharing if you had time to do that. I wish I could have been there. I wish I could have heard your stories. And I'm wondering if maybe your teacher can send some to me so I can see what you've written and hear your stories and know a little bit about you through your writing and through your stories. So I'm hoping that that might be able to happen. But I just wanted one last word with you to remember to use empathy, in your reading, in your writing, and in your lives, in your relationships with each other. Especially remember that empathy is a superpower for friendship. It's a superpower for making friends and for deepening our friendships with each other. So remember to imagine what another is thinking and seeing and feeling. And then as we empathize with another, think about how we might want to be with them. Empathy, incidentally, isn't just about empathizing with somebody who's sad or feeling bad about something. It's also about empathizing and imagining what it's like to feel happy. So, it goes both ways. So we can use our empathy to really be with another person in that feeling place that they're in. So, and also, I guess the last thing, which was about, what this book was about that we read today, is remember that you can use empathy with yourself. You can feel what you're feeling, and you can feel that empathy, and you can make a choice. You can make a choice to stand by your own brave self and encourage yourself to speak your voice, to believe in your story, to believe in yourself as the wonderful, amazing, unique, and fabulous person that you are. And I know you are. I know you are. So it's been great being with you. I hope you've learned a few things. I hope you've enjoyed a few things, but mostly, you know what? I hope that you've gotten to know yourself and each other a little bit better through that superpower that we all have, which is empathy. So take care of yourselves during this time. Be gentle with yourselves, stand by your own brave self, and believe in who you are. So take good care. Bye-bye.